Hey, what's up creators? In today's video, I'm going to walk you through my entire process of how I capture a job, including photos and videos, and how I edit those. Now this is going to be a long video, but it shows my entire thought process from the beginning all the way through the end. Now I work in glass, but this process works with anybody in any kind of trade or any kind of thing where you want to capture cinematic pictures and cinematic videos for the purpose of social media marketing, websites, or whatever else you may want to do with it. So buckle in and enjoy the show.
Hey, what's up, Glazers? So I coach a lot of clients on how to capture content of their jobs, and part of the service I provide is I help them with caption and editing and posting. And so for a lot of Glazers, it's very hard to get back into a finished job. In fact, sometimes it takes years. So behind me is the Fallbrook system by C.R. Lawrence. And as far as I know, this was the very first Fallbrook installed in Colorado here in the basement over a year ago. And so that just goes to show, like, even a year later, I come back to jobs and I'm able to take content like this. This is honestly the best case scenario because at this time, the wine racks are in, the wine room is fully stocked, everything is fully furnished, all the contractors' gear is out, and we got good lighting, we got a bunch of cool stuff, the interesting things to take pictures of. And so what you really want to do, and if you can get into a job like this, is to set aside some time. So most of the time when I go back to take pictures of a job, I only have like 10 minutes, and in 10 minutes I can get some good photos and some good videos using my Osmo Pocket 3. But when I have the time to actually take my time and do my thing uninterrupted, with permission of course, I like to go ahead and set aside an hour. So why would you want to come back and take content of this? Because it's going to help you post more content in the long term. So what I mean by that is that we're going to go ahead and be able to take pictures. We're going to take our time and get some fantastic pictures with an actual camera. And I'm also going to use the same camera, run it on a gimbal to get some smooth footage. Now what this is going to do is it's going to allow us to have perfect content for maybe 1 month or 2 months out into the future, because I can take the pictures, edit them, and I can post them one at a time, spread out over time so it doesn't get tired. Those same pictures can also go on our website and all of our other places where people come to view our products. We don't actually have a showroom, so Instagram is our showroom. So in other words, as we complete jobs, I'm adding to our showroom. And then you can make a cinematic edit. So that's basically like a moving picture. So you have some sweet music, cool transitions, cool lighting effects, cool gimbal movements. And honestly, these are the kind of videos that do best for our business, Baron Glass. But then I could also make another video, a talking head style video, highlighting the key features of this product, shouting out anyone who was involved, including the manufacturer, which they will likely reshare on their platforms. By the way, the Fallbrook is by C.R. Lawrence. C.R. Lawrence is not paying me to make this video, but maybe one day they will, and this video might help them get to that conclusion. So it's nothing but good things. So on the talking head videos, I like to just describe what's cool about the job, or maybe tell a story about the job, and then just use that same cinematic B-roll to go ahead and add to that. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and get started, and I'm just going to walk you through the basic things that I do. So every time I go into a job, and by the way, this can be done with a smartphone, professional cameras, Osmo Pocket 3, action camera, it doesn't matter what camera you have. Most people just have their smartphone. So even if all you have is your smartphone, you can still follow the same process. So the very first thing that I do when I get into the job site, or the finished completed product site, if you will, is I turn on all the lights, try to get them as bright as possible so the pictures and the videos will look best so long as the lights are as bright as possible, especially if you're using a phone. Always turn on all the lights. The second thing is I'll be using this Sigma, this 10 to 18 lens. So this is going to help me get that ultra wide field of view so that I can get the entire wine cellar into my photo. Now, I am a huge fan of square aspect ratio. Why square aspect ratio? Because carousels are really popular, and carousels like to be in 4:5 or 1:1. Also, I like to make my videos in a square aspect ratio because I can fit more of the glass product in the frame, and it looks fantastic on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, which are my primary platforms. I'm not a huge fan of the vertical video because usually glass systems are wider than they are tall, so it can be very difficult to get the whole thing inside of a vertical cut. For that reason alone, I prefer not to use vertical. So the very first thing I'm going to do is essentially get some photos. So I'm going to go ahead and get like straight on elevation shots from the front, from the side, You know, just try to get pictures all around, not just of the wine cellar, but also of the background, the foreground. And what I'm going to do is just put my camera into intelligent auto. Yes, I know that's sacrilegious if you have a professional camera, but I find that unless you have all day to tweak the settings on every single shot, you kind of just got to let the camera do its work. And modern cameras have incredible intelligent auto modes. So I'm going to go and utilize that, and I'll just go ahead and show you how I turn it on and frame it up, and we'll take the first few pictures together. So I got my camera. Let me see if I can bring it down a little bit. Got my lens cap. Go ahead and take that off. I know that I have a CPL filter on there, which really helps with glass, because what the CPL filter does is it helps cut down on the reflections, but it does remove some light, which is why having more light is important. So what I do is I just flip this bad boy on, right? Turn it on. I'm gonna make sure it's in auto mode, intelligent auto, and you can see the little green eye right there. That means intelligent auto. That means the camera is making all the decisions on as soon as I press the shutter. So what I essentially do is I'll try to look straight on. So the most basic shots that I always begin with is looking straight on, and I'm using my grid lines to help keep that center. And I have my zoom ring where I can zoom in and I can zoom out. So I'll kind of zoom out a little bit so I can crop it, but I don't know if you can see like my grid lines. So the wine cellar is essentially basically dead center of my grid lines, both top and bottom. And I have like a little level on there that helps me keep this level. But to be honest, the only thing that I really do is I kind of like just tilt it up and down and kind of swivel left and right. So when I swivel left and right, what I'm doing is I'm looking at the bottom edge of the wine cellar, and I'm just trying to line up with the bottom edge of the screen or one of the grid lines. So I just kind of swivel until the bottom edge is parallel to the bottom. We have a sloped ceiling here, so I'm not going to worry about that too much. And then for the vertical lines, if I can tilt up like this, right? So like tilting down, tilting up. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of tilt like this until the vertical lines of that wine cellar are lined up perfect with the vertical lines on my grid, my third grids, right? So as soon as I have that bad boy perfectly center, I'm going to go ahead and push and lock focus. And then I'm going to go ahead and snap the picture. So I'll go ahead and do this all the way around. All right, let's come over here. And in this one, I think I'm gonna back up and show a lot of the foreground and background. And I'm gonna keep that wine cellar center of the frame, center as good as I can, tilt up and down until the vertical lines are vertical. And I'm just gonna lock focus right there. Boom. All right, so this looks like a pretty cool shot because I can get this interesting table in the foreground. All right, see that? The table in the foreground. So again, I'm gonna come over here and I'm just gonna maybe zoom in a little bit or zoom out. I lock focus. Oh, hold on. So sometimes if you accidentally touch something, you can just simply turn your camera on and put it back on. Turn your camera off and put it back on again. And then everything kind of resets. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab focus right there. The little green box is on the wine cellar. I'm just going to frame my shot up as good as I can and hold my hand as still as possible, and boom. All right, so I'm just gonna go around and take my photos. I'm gonna try to get close-up shots, get shots from all angles, and then we'll move on to the video phase. Now that I got all my pictures, by the way, my camera was set to take photos in both the JPEG and RAW. I will be editing those photos in Lightroom just to make sure they're in tip-top shape. So next I'm gonna bust out my RS3 mini gimbal, and we're gonna go ahead and bounce that bad boy. So you just unlock all the arms. All right, we're gonna go ahead and set that down. Put my camera on there. And then what we essentially do is just unlock the arms one at a time, starting with. And so like you see, like when I unlock this this access back here, how the camera kind of just falls. So what I gotta do is essentially just move this over until it stays upright and then lock it back in. Okay, so once all the arms are unlocked, the camera should just be like this, where it'll just kind of stay put wherever you place it. And by the way, before I use the gimbal, I would just use my phone. So what we're gonna focus on is 3 basic movements, or three basic aspects. We've got wide, medium, and tight. So very similar to the photos I just took, I'm gonna try to stand way back with everything in frame and just lock the gimbal and slowly walk straight, slowly walk backwards, and do that from multiple different angles. And then I'll start making orbits and dolly shots and jib shots. So I'll kind of just place you in the corner to follow me around, and I'll show you the basic shots that I get. And then in the end, I'm gonna go through and get detailed shots of items I wanna talk about, like maybe a close-up shot of the vents, or detailed shots of the wine mounts. So not everything has to be about the glass. Obviously this is a video for glass products, but I could also incorporate some of the cool things in the room, like this table on standoffs, or like the wine racks are attaching to rocks, the rock walls. So I have something different to mix into the edit, which we'll work on later. Once I have my gimbal balanced, I'll go ahead and put my camera on, and I'm gonna go ahead and put it into video mode. I have my custom 2 dial set to record at 4K 60 at 1/125th shutter speed to get that natural motion blur. I'll be shooting at 2.8 aperture, which is the widest that this lens goes. And then I'm just going to increase my ISO until it looks bright enough, until the zebras are just barely showing. So go ahead and get this guy, plug it into the USB-C. We're gonna go ahead and turn the gimbal on. So remote shoot, when the gimbal's turned on, just plug it into your camera. Your camera's video settings are set up the way you want them. So the reason I'm shooting in 60 frames per second is so that I have the ability to slow it down up to 40%, which is going to make the footage look incredibly smooth and cinematic. Now, I don't do this to every single shot, but I just do it where it makes sense, and we'll talk about that later. Okay, so I'm at my base ISO, which I think is 6400, but the image looks, pretty good on the screen. When you first set up your gimbal, usually you have to calibrate it. So I can see that everything is working just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and push that auto calibrate button, start calibrate. The gimbal is going to do a little dance, kind of shake around a little bit like it's having a seizure. And what that's doing is it's calibrating the electric motors so that the gimbal knows how much power and how much torque to give each one of those motors. All right, I'll be recording most shots in pan follow mode. And what that means is, like, when I go like this with my wrist, right? No matter which way I spin the gimbal, the horizon is gonna stay level. And so just like the pictures, what I'm essentially doing is like looking at the top and bottom of whatever I'm gonna shoot, right? I don't know if you can see that. You could look at the top and bottom of the wine room and kind of rotate my wrist left and right until those lines are matching the lines on the screen. And then what you essentially do is you hold the trigger, and once you hold that trigger, then it's locked in that position. So then it's gonna stay pointing exactly that way the whole time you shoot. So I'll be doing the majority of my shots that way, and I'll kind of just explain what I'm doing as I'm doing it, and we'll go from there. Okay, hopefully you can still see me. So now I can just focus right there on the wine room, and just like the first photo, I'm just going to double press the trigger to kind of recenter my gimbal. I'm gonna put the wine cellar directly center of my frame as best as I can. As soon as I'm absolutely happy with the framing, I'm gonna go ahead and hold the trigger to lock it. I'm gonna push the record button on my gimbal, and then I'm just gonna do the ninja walk, heel to toe, knees bent, back arch. And what I'm trying to do here is walk as smoothly as possible at the same speed as possible. And then as soon as I get to the end point, I do the same thing in reverse. And I'll just do that again from several different angles. Hold, lock trigger, record. And sometimes you gotta do this to get around or over things. So I think over here, I'm not gonna have enough room to walk straight in. So I'm actually gonna stand back here against the wall, back against the wall. And I'm just gonna center up the wine cellar. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna walk forward as much as I can over this table. And I'm gonna lean to get the rest of that motion, like so. And then in reverse. So it's almost like every movement that you do, you want to do the same thing in reverse. I can't tell you how many times I thought I had a shot, but then the reverse shot ended up being even better. And you can use either shot, either or, because you could always reverse one or the other, or do speed ramps or stuff like that. So now that I did that, I'm going to start to get some, I think I'm going to try to get orbit. So What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna walk around the wine cellar and try to kind of keep the wine racks in frame. And I'm just gonna walk smoothly, and I'm just gonna rotate my wrist like so. And kind of do an orbit. And then do it again in reverse. So it's almost like I'm trying to keep the lens at a perpendicular to the glass face as I rotate to try to keep everything in frame. And push. Okay, good. And then another shot that I like to get is a slide shot every single time. So I'll stand back, center up the wine cellar where I need it. I'll block and hold, I'll press the record button, and just do a ninja walk in one direction. You know, I think this table in the foreground does actually look pretty cool, that table edge. So I think I'm gonna try to incorporate those standoffs and the table in a kind of a parallax kind of movement. So I'm just going like this, keep it freestyle, and just kind of rotate along. So it's almost like it's a parallax reveal on the door and transom. Just get those centered as good as I can, press and lock, and then slowly and smoothly go down. Until it hits the floor, and then back up. So now I think I'm gonna get a detail shot. So I'm gonna use a dial on my gimbal and kind of tilt the camera up. And just kind of get a detailed shot of this door frame. Fuck. It's hard work, I'm starting to sweat. And so I always get my basics down first: wide, medium, tight, pull in, push out, dolly, crane, parallax. Just so I have plenty of options to choose from in the edit. But now that all that's done, I can just get creative and just try some crazy stuff. This is a fun shot. So what this is gonna do is it's gonna rotate the gimbal, I think 360 degrees. And so I'm just gonna stand in here. So I'm just gonna stand in here, hit record, and then rotate as I walk out. All right, so we'll pack up, we'll get the SD card out of the camera, plug it in, download the photos into Lightroom, give them a nice edit, and that's usually where I start. And then I'll do screen captures or screen records of the shop drawings or anything in the process, get everything compiled into one folder, including the music I like, logos, anything that has to do with this particular job will all be on one folder, and then we'll go ahead and start the edit, and I'll show you what that looks like. I use CapCut to edit most of my projects, and yeah, here it is. Okay, back at the office, and the first thing I'm going to do is work on the photo edits. So best way to do that is just to take the SD card right out of your camera. Okay, so now that we're plugged in, we're going to go ahead and open up Lightroom. Okay, so rather than importing the JPEGs and the RAWs onto the SSD, I'm just going to import them. I'm only going to import the RAWs straight into Lightroom. So I'm not saving the RAWs on my solid state drive. So I'll go ahead and go to create album. We're going to call this create a new album in Lightroom. Boom. And then we're going to go to file, add photos. Okay, starting with this one, I'm only going to select the ARW, which are the RAWs. Holding command, I'm just going to select every single one. Okay, review for import. And if something jumps out at me as unusable, then I'll just deselect it. But I do like all these photos. Okay, add 33 photos. So we're going to let that import for a bit. I'm just going to leave all these photos as shot. I'm not going to do any cropping. And I'm just going to look for the best ones. All right, so starting with this one. You can see that there's a lot of noise in this image. This doesn't have any post-processing. The JPEGs in your camera usually process the noise out of it automatically, but in the RAWs, it's giving you what it was able to produce. So I'm on APS-C, so it's not the best in low light, but it's definitely good enough, especially when you're using RAWs. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my presets, and I'm just going to select one of these out of the urban architecture, and I'm just going to kind of scroll through all of them until I find one that I think makes the product, which is the glass enclosure, right, look as good as possible. You know what? I think I like this one. So we're gonna go with that. I'm come over here to the dials, and I'm gonna go ahead and hit the auto. Looks like it's bringing up a lot of those shadows. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the denoise button. So if you can see all this grain right here, like in the shadows and in the corners of the picture, so what the denoise is going to do is it's going to get rid of that. So check out this difference night and day. It takes a little while to denoise each image. So we're not going to edit every single one. We're just going to choose the best ones because of this reason right here. Okay, look at that. All of the noise has been cleaned up and it looks perfect. So now from here, what I usually do is I scroll down and I add my own touches, which is usually a dehaze and a clarity, just to give as much detail as possible. I'm also going to raise the sharpening up a bit, and I do like a little vignette just for some ambiance. So usually by doing those things, the image gets darker. So I'm going to go ahead and bring the exposure up just a bit, and bring those highlights down a little more so that so that the lights aren't too distracting. And I'm just going to find a nice balance that I think looks good. All right, I think that's it. So now I'm going to go ahead and crop image. I'm going to come down here and hit the constraint crop. And what this is going to do is I can move all these sliders to get the image just the way I want it. So what I'm going to automatically do is just rotate it so that the vertical lines of the frame match the vertical lines of the grid that's before me. And then I'm looking at that bottom edge of the glass door. I can see that it's not quite perfect with the bottom edge of the grid line. So I'm going to move this horizontal slider bar to the right until it lines up a little better. And now from here, I'm going to go vertical, and I'm just looking at those vertical lines, and I'm trying to match them up with the grid. Okay, right there. It's a little distorted, so I'm going to bring that distortion in so that the lines look straighter. That's not uncommon with the ultra wide lens. And then I'm just going to crop in a bit. Okay, so I got the wine enclosure perfectly centered. I'm using my grid lines as reference. I like the way that it's framed. I like the way that it's lit. I'll maybe bring the exposure up just a touch more, just to bring those blacks up. So yeah, that's it. So now from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this export button. I'm going to export a small, so it's 90% quality, but it's a small file size. If I export a large file size, I'm not going to be able to upload that to LinkedIn or a lot of platforms. So it's just too much information. So now that the edits are done, I'm going to go ahead and do a small. And from here, I'm going to navigate to my external hard drive, and I'm going to go ahead and drop the files in there. I'm going to go ahead and create a new file. And inside this file, I'm going to make another one called A6700. And then I'm just going to drop all of them in here. So the hardest part was just getting the exposure and the details just the way I want them. And so once I've done that once, I'm going to go ahead and down here where all my pictures are, I'm going to go ahead and come over here and hit Command C. And then right here, I'm going to go Command V. And what I just did is I just copied all of the settings, which are the denoise, exposure, and all that stuff, and I just pasted it right on top of the next photo. So I'm essentially, the edit that I did on the first one, I'm going to paste it on all of the photos moving forward, and I'll only make slight adjustments as needed. And I'm not too worried about this stuff because this isn't, this isn't like portrait photography. I'm not worried about getting it too perfect. So now that this has been automatically adjusted, I think I'm going to bring that exposure down just a touch. It's a little bright. And then now from here, all I do is I just center up the wine cellar using this crop tool, and I kind of stretch the lines a little bit this way and that way until, referencing my grid lines, and then I just crop in a bit. And I do think that up there is a little distracting. So I'm gonna come to this eraser tool. So get rid of that, and that's good. So I'll go to export, small, and then it's going to remember the last place I saved it and then save. So I'm just going to go ahead and repeat this process for the rest of the photos and save them all into that folder. And then I'll see you on the next step, which is editing importing and editing video. Okay, now it's time for the video. So again, just get our SD card, stuff that into your computer or plug it in somehow, some way, and then it's going to appear right there on your screen. So this is my external SSD. I'm going to go ahead and open this, and I'm going to open the folder that I want this stuff to live in, which is going to be our project folder for editing. All right, so inside here, I'm going to go and create a new folder called A6700 vids. I'm going to open that folder, then I'm going to come up here and I'm going to open this SD card out of my camera. I'm going to go to private, M4 root, clip, and then I'm just going to find the video clips from today. So it says today. I'm going to click all of these MP4 files, and I'm going to go ahead and drop them into the folder. Drag and drop all at once. Okay, looks like all my files are transferred, and look at all this information. 268 megabytes, 200 megabytes, all of these files are in the megabytes, so it's definitely best to offload these onto an external solid state drive so it doesn't take up room on your machine. So now that I did that, I'm going to go ahead and close this folder that is the SD card. I'm going to go ahead and eject that, put it right back into my camera. Okay, so I just want to show you my file structure really quickly. So these are the photos that we just edited, right? Tons of photos to choose from if I want to. And then I got all the videos that we took on the A6700. I have my logo files right here to add into the video somewhere. I have a couple of music tracks that I like that I want to use. And then of course I have my screen records, which I will use for this YouTube video later. But for now, I'm just going to make a short form cinematic edit. And here we go. So let's go ahead and open up CapCut. CapCut for PC is legit. I don't care what anybody says. We're going to do a create new project, and you'll be treated to this screen. We're going to go ahead and go to modify, and the first thing we got to do is name it. So I'm going to make a couple different versions of this same video. One of them is going to be for just a short form cinematic edit, which we're going to do right now, but I'm also going to use the same footage to make a talking head and kind of tell a story of the same job. And then I'm also going to use the videos or the photos that we took and spread them out over time. So just 2 or 3 projects a month. If you can get in here and do this, you have content for literally months. So the aspect ratio, I'm just going to keep this one in a 16:9. I know vertical is better for socials, but I prefer horizontal, especially on wide wine rooms like this, because you can fit more of the wine room into the frame. Resolution I leave as adapted. I shot everything, all my cameras were either in 24 frames per second or 60 frames per second. And I do this on purpose so that I can slow it down and get some slow motion as needed. Color space, leave it that at Rec 709. Arrange layers, I'm going to leave that on there. This just means that I can put things in between the video layers down the line. If you don't have that clicked, you can't unclick it once you start editing your video. So let's go to save. Now I'm going to import, and I'm going to navigate back to that same folder that all of this stuff lives in. Okay, so this is the project folder where everything is nice and organized. I'm going to select that, and I'm going to import. All right, so now that this is imported, I'm going to double click it, and the first thing I'm going to do is select my music track. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with this one. Seems a little more dramatic. So now that my music track is in there, I'm going to find the section of the music that I want to use, and maybe I'll just use the first portion of this. So I'm just going to cut it off right at the minute mark, and I'm going to select my track and hit W on my keyboard to delete the second half. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this little slider down until the orange disappears. So that orange and that red right there, that's peaking, and what that means is that on a speaker it'll start to crackle because it's basically losing information. So I'm just going to bring that down just enough so that it's not peaking anymore. And the first thing I'm going to do is select this track. I'm going to come up to this beats marker. I'm going to hit beats 2, and the AI is going to give me frame markers as to where the cuts are and should or could be. So you can see that it basically dropped these markers everywhere where the beat drops or the cadence of the beat. And so what I'm going to do is use these as
as guides to start and stop my clips. So I'm gonna go ahead and come into here. Let's just listen to the music really quick and see how it feels. All right, I think it starts off too slow. So I'm gonna cut off the first half by selecting it, hitting Q, and it cuts it off right at the playhead. And so from here, okay, so right here, I'm gonna go ahead and put an M, and this is like the intro. And so I'm gonna put a photo in each one of these spaces, and then from there it's gonna jump, and then from here moving forward is gonna be video clips. So I'm just gonna find some good photos that I think will look nice, drop them in there. I'll kind of alternate between detail shots and wide shots. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab each one of these and just drag the ends until they land on a beat. And you'll notice that the ends are cut off on our screen. And that is because the sensor on the camera is a 3x2 and we're shooting in a 16:9. So we can stretch those to fill the screen, but first I wanna get them all the photos I'm gonna use in there. Okay, so now that these are all landing on a beat, I'm gonna go ahead and click and hold in space, and I'm gonna highlight all of these photos at once. I'm gonna come up here to the scale tool that appears, and I'm just gonna move it up until they fill the whole frame. Now they're not all framed up perfect, but I think this works. So now that I did that, I'm gonna go ahead and start with my video clips. So up here, I'm gonna come back to my videos, and I'm just gonna start throwing them in there. And I'm just simply going to, like as soon as the video starts, as soon as the motion starts, I'm going to cut off the beginning of the video by selecting it, and where my playhead is, I'll hit Q to delete that front half. And then when I get close, when I get close to the end, I'm going to put my playhead on a beat, and I'm going to go ahead and hit W to cut it off right there. I'm going to remove the audio out of this upper track because all I want you to hear is the music and sound effects that I'm going to add later. So from here, I'm just going to go ahead and start dropping them in there. And again, as soon as the motion starts, I'm going to cut off the front half. And then when it gets to where it's going or the end, I'll cut it off there. And let's see how much real estate we have to work with. So not a whole lot. So, I'm not going to get too fancy with all these transitions or as many transitions and effects. I'm just going to do simple basic cuts. I actually like this one a lot. Man, I was killing it out there in the field today. So right when the motion starts, we're going to go ahead and cut that off. And then when it gets to the end, cut it off. So I'm already halfway through and I haven't even selected a whole lot of clips. So from here, I'm going to try to get some detail shots. Ooh, that was a cool one. I did like that one a lot. So I like that motion right there. So this motion right here, boom, spin around. And right when it gets to there, or yeah, right there, I'm gonna cut it off. All right, so this is basically all there is to editing. I got my music in there, got my photos in there, I got my clips in there, and I'm just gonna go ahead and fill the rest of the timeline with all the clips that I like. We'll just keep it going. So I already know that I want to end with this shot. So I'm just going to grab this track and put it towards the back. Ooh, I think I like this one better. This one seems way more smooth. Look at that. Look at that motion. I just keep it going. Okay, so right here. So I'm going to bring my endpoint in up here until it starts rotating. And then I'm going to come way in until I get to the rock and put it right there. Oh, it's the magnetic timeline, so I'm actually going to put it up here. And this one I want to be in reverse because I can already tell that I'm going to have the logo fly out of the door as it rotates out of the wine room. So I'm going to grab that and I'm going to go ahead and reverse it by coming over here, hitting reverse. Oh yeah, perfect. That's going to be the closer right there. So we'll just leave that up here for now. In the meantime, we're just going to alternate through some of these cool shots that we got. Oh, that was a good one. I like this one. And that was a cool one too. Look at that. It's like flying over the rocks. Let's throw that in there too. Now it was kind of fast paced, but I like it. Just drop that in there. Oh, damn. That one's really fast. I actually like that one too. Look how smooth that motion is with the gimbal. So flying straight up. How cool is that? Boom. All right. Yeah, why not? Let's pan and show the whole wine cellar from left to right. That seems appropriate. And I think we got time for just one more. Okay, so it looks like we have our first cut. I'm sure this is going to work out just fine. I'm only going to add a few transitions. I can see an opportunity here to add a transition that's going to be a pull in. So with the transitions, all I'm really trying to do is match the motion that already exists inside the frame. So you can see how it's moving in and then it pulls in again to the next frame. So that's pretty much it when it comes to transitions. You don't want to overdo it. Okay, so you can see that these two frames are kind of moving in the same direction. So I think that's going to be an opportunity to slide right. Look at that. How cool is that? It kind of stretches. And then when it lands on this frame, it's moving in the same direction. So that's it. Just 2 or 3 max. Yeah, I think that's about it. We're all transitioned out. Okay, so now the grand finale. I'm going to go ahead and grab the logo. Let's go back to media. Let's go to import. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's go to all. We're going to go to logo. And we're just going to grab the Bearing Glass logo, stick it right here. And so I want this logo to get bigger as time goes on. So I'm going to go to the beginning. With my logo track selected, I'm going to go to the beginning. I'm going to make it tiny so you can't even see it. I'm going to add a keyframe by pushing this button right here. And then I move my playhead out. And when I get about right here, I'm going to scale it up to about how big I want it to be. So what that's going to do, it's going to grow as it exits. So check this out. And here it is. Ready? Okay, I just noticed something. I should have started this clip a little earlier, like right here. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that. I'm going to grab this guy and slide it over. Make that track grow if I can. Okay, we are nearly finished. So now I'm going to go ahead and all that's left to do now is just add sound effects, and sound effects usually happen when something happens like with the logo, or at the very least you got to add a whoosh every time you have one of these motion transitions. So I'm going to come up here to audio, sorry. Come up here to audio, we're going to go to sound effects, and you can type in what you want here, but this is what I wanted was the whoosh. So I want the short whoosh right here, and I want this longer whoosh right here. So I'm just going to get the whoosh, and I'm going to line the peak up center of the transition, and I'm going to bring that sound down until the peaking disappears and kind of just line that up so that the peak is right at the peak of the transition. And let me just show you what that looks like. I'm going to remove the audio, the sound audio, and we'll listen to just the sound effect. Ooh, that was perfect. Let's try this one. Okay, so now with the music back on, let's do that again. I think the whoosh is a little too loud, so I'm going to bring that down to about 10. I'll do the same over here. The thing about sound effects is that you don't want them to be too loud. Like just a very subtle, like it's almost like you shouldn't even know that they're there. That one's really loud. Okay, that's it. So the cinematic edit is done. I didn't get too fancy on color grading. I didn't do any LUTs. I didn't do any corrections, any filters. All I did was I added a cool music track, which I got from Epidemic Sound, which means I can play this anywhere, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. I'm not going to get dinged. And yeah, this is it. Just use the AI beat, the AI to mark your beats and just put your clips in. I like to stack my videos with a bunch of pictures right out of the gate that kind of hit fast, and then it moves into the motion. So
This one is done. So now what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to come up here to the export button. Now on the export, I'm going to make sure that my resolution is in 1080p because that is the best to upload to short form. If I was going to upload a video to YouTube, which I'm going to do later, I would export this in 4K. So frame rate 24, everything is just the way I like it. We didn't even have to use slow motion this time because the gimbal movements were so smooth. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and navigate back to that exact same folder where it came from. And here I'm going to put a new folder called CapCut exports, and then I'm going to hit open and then export. Okay, now it is done. So now I have this right here in my CapCut exports. I have my short form video. I can hold my space bar to double check it. And it's there, it's perfect. So now what I can do is I can upload this into LinkedIn or wherever, add my captions and hit post. And that's all there is to it. I just want to say thank you for watching this video. I hope that you found some value. All of this can be done with just a smartphone, by the way. You don't need these cameras, but all of the basic principles are the same. I go into a job site. When it's done, I take my time taking photos and I take my time taking videos. Obviously, if you're using a smartphone, you got to be a little more careful without the help of a gimbal. But really, the principles are the same. You import that stuff into your computer, edit the photos if you want to first, find your music track, upload it into CapCut, and then get your music, put the beat markers, cut all your pictures and your photos, or your photos and your videos to the beat. Adds sound effects, transitions as needed, but don't overdo it. Export in 1080p, and that is all there is to it. So now later down the line, I'll think of a cool story to tell about this, and I'll just do a talking head setup just like this, and I'll read my story, and I'll use that same exact B-roll to overlay over my talking head to help emphasize what I'm saying, and that'll be a whole separate video. So again, thank you for watching. I hope this helped you in some way, shape, or form, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.